Okay, most of the lab that can be done from this point forward should be able to be accomplished on any computer. You don't need the virtual machine at this point for the AWS stuff because it's all done in the browser. I was experiencing some internet issues in previous videos that I recorded, so I had to move to the school and be on my Mac. So Windows users, everything else should be pretty much identical. Don't worry about it. If you see Mac stuff though, that's why. So for the first part, this is assuming you've already gone through the process of creating an AWS account. I'm on the AWS website right now, and we're just going to do a little tour through this. You're going to sign on to your account if you're not already on there now. You're going to go into the AWS Management Console. And the first time you'll be signing on here, you'll be a root user. So you'll just use whatever email address you had. The IAM users are something that we're going to set up in this tutorial. This is so that Dr. Devine and I can access your instances, and so we can help you. It's not as simple as the virtual machine for this, and in fact, this is arguably a little bit easier. You don't have to change the password every time. You just give us a particular set of passwords that we can use. So we're going to go next, and this password is a more secure version of than the ones that I've been showing you before for my personal information. Now, I have these recently visited services, but you will not. This kind of neatly summarizes the areas that we're interested in. We're going to be looking at IAM, which is access control, identity and access control management. So what this amounts to is you creating these user accounts and roles and policies that allow people to do or not do certain functions within your AWS console here. If, for example, you had a business, your business's AWS Management Console. S3 is basically Amazon's version of cloud storage. Um, Instead of having drives, you have buckets. You can think of it like that. Although you have not had this experience necessarily, Google allows you to upload things programmatically using what's called an API. So we're going to be looking at two kinds of things with S3. One is called an API, which allows you to programmatically access S3 resources, such as uploading a photo to S3 using PHP. So that's uploading it to a cloud resource. That's going to use these credentials that we're going to generate using IAM. Now, that's an API, and SDK is another term or three-letter word that you'll see tossed around a couple of times. So an SDK is a couple of APIs or elements of software that are kind of grouped together and allow you to do all kinds of different functionality. And it's something that you would download. For example, if you use Android Studio, you get the Android SDK that has all kinds of pieces of software that allow you to communicate with Google services. So you can think of an API as a telephone that allows you to connect to other people outside of your house. And you can think of an SDK as the house itself that has a telephone, your TV, it's connected to the internet, your router, your gaming console, et cetera, et cetera. All these things that are communicating and providing different services and so forth. So if you scroll down in the, where is it? In the security section, security, identity, and compliance right here in IAM. You'll be able to click on that. You can also just use the search bar and search for it, and that's fine. Now, this is something that you will probably see. I tried deleting stuff in between videos after I did some little testing. However, you may not see any roles in here already predefined. This is the IAM dashboard. You'll make note of this URL right here. This is something that is very helpful. This is the ID for your particular AWS console, your instance of AWS, for example, associated with your account. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Sublime, and I'm going to just save this to my desktop, and this is going to have my AWS credentials and information and stuff like that. That's going to be very useful for you in the next lab. So, and this is something that you're going to submit on eCampus, but not in GitHub. Under no circumstances do you put it in GitHub. The reason for that is because if you do, you'll have to regenerate them, because GitHub has this automated machine learning approach to security for their platform. And the first thing I'm going to put in here is going to be the URL. But what happens is if you put AWS credentials on GitHub, it will flag it. It'll send a notification to AWS, and AWS will force you to delete that account and or regenerate the password and information for that. And it just becomes kind of a pain in the butt for you. So what we're going to do is we're just going to copy this URL right here. This is going to be for me to log into and to see. The next few things you're going to get are going to be the access key ID and the access key secret. You're going to want to make note of these things. This is going to be for our S3 application. We're going to use the API next week, and we're going to paste this information in here so we don't forget it. Because as soon as after we create this S3 account to be able to do this, it's not going to let us go back through and look at the password. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to also create 2 accounts, Divine and MIC Austin. And the password for those is going to be CS230 lab. The C and S and CS are capitalized. The L in lab is capitalized, and the rest is lowercase. And then we're going to have 0321. So for March of 2021. This is going to be our password that we're going to use. I'm going to show you how to set this up in IAM in just a minute. But these 2 accounts are so that Dr. Divine and I can access your stuff from our web browsers. And you guys can kind of manage that, get some experience using IAM. So the first thing we're going to do in here in IAM on the IAM dashboard is we're going to head over to the left-hand side where it says groups. And we're going to create a new group, which is just this blue button right here, this create new group button. And this is going to be CS230 admin. All right, keep it the same name. And what we're going to do is we're going to give this person administrator access, or this group administrator access. And what we're going to do is we're going to associate the 2 users with this group. Now, you'll notice if you scroll down through this, there's like thousands, or not thousands, but like there's a lot of these different permissions for all the many apps that there are. And you can see that for each one, there's roughly 2 or 3 where you have full access, meaning you can do read, write, and execute, read only. Some of them are for video streaming, some of them are for bots and all kinds of stuff like that for executions. So those don't apply to us, but you should just be aware that there are all these different options out there. There it is, 646 results. So again, we're just going to use administrator access for this CS230 admin group. And what we're going to do is we're going to copy this policy thing right here. And I'll be able to show you that in just a minute. So this is for the CS230 admin group. And we're going to hit create group. Now, I can go in here and I can go in policies. And if I click on this, for example, there is basically an object that is stored with this information. And effect is basically what permissions or whether you are allowing or denying users access or groups or applications access. This version is when this AWS service was created, so 2012 for Amazon, and then you can specify read or like read only or write, things like that. And then the resource can be very specific. It can be down to just S3, which we'll see in a little bit. And you'll be able to compare and contrast this with this administrator access that allows you to do everything like with the star, just like how we use the star for the databases in SQL to grab all of the fields for each of the rows in our tables. This allows you to do everything with the star. Anyway, let's head over to the users now and add some users to this account. So the first one we're going to add is going to be Divine. And the next one's going to be Mick Austin, MICAUSTIN, just like Texas. And the access type for this one is going to be AWS Management Console. Now, you'll notice that there's another one, programmatic access. This is what I was talking about before with the API. There's that word again, and there's SDK and other development tools and so forth. So this is where our S3 bucket is going to, our application is going to have access. Is going to be through programmatic access. For Divine and for Dr. Divine and myself, we want AWS Management Console access. And this will allow us to sign in as it indicates right here. This custom password is going to be, as I stated in this text file right here. So I'm just going to paste that in and show it. As you can see, capital C, capital S, 230, capital L in lab, 0321. And you're going to uncheck this box right here. I don't want to reset the password and be forced to use a different password for every single one of you. Make sure that box is unchecked. All right, we're going to move on next to the permissions, which are what you are allowing both of us to do. Now, you're going to just check this box and add us to the CS230 admin. Now, if you didn't create this group first, you can still attach policies. You just need to do it with this right here, this button right here, and it'll allow you to select it the same way we went through the group policy. All right, but having people in groups, having different groups for different functions is very useful. It also means you don't have to go back through and hunt around for the different access policies. It's a very, very useful feature being able to group people like this and part of good software engineering. The next thing is just tags. I'm just going to add one right here. They have these key value pairs. This is similar to associative arrays or hash maps or dictionaries or whatever experience you've had with other programming languages. We saw it in the JSON example of these key value pairs on allow and then star, things like that, or like action and allow, things like that. So the role for these people is going to be instructor. You don't have to have anything here for the S3 bucket one. We're not going to have anything. But next I'm going to just review this. These are the usernames that I'm creating. It has a password for these. And don't worry about this permission boundary. That's if you want to kind of clip people's wings and set a hard limit on the capabilities that they have, the apps that they have access to, things like that. So they can only add so many things. All right, we're going to create these users. You'll get these nifty little success messages right here. Don't send us an email. You've already copied and pasted this URL. If you haven't, just put it at the top here for this URL section. So you can see it's the same. And we're going to close out of that. Now the next user is going to be a little bit different. This is where that secret key and everything comes in, and I'll show you that in just a second. So we're going to add a user that's just going to be called S3 user with a capital U, S3-user. And this is going to be programmatic access. Now you're not going to be setting any kind of password for that. So you're going to go next. we should already have a group for this person, but we don't. So we're just going to attach existing policies directly. This is that method that I was showing you before. If you didn't create a group, you can do it this way as well. All right, so I'm just typing in S3 to filter out the policies. I don't feel a particular need to go through all 646 of them. You might be wondering what some of these services are, like Redshift S3 role. Redshift is for databases. Don't worry about it. We're not using it in this class right now. We're going to give it full access. This is similar to the admin access, but it's restricted to just the S3 service. So just the cloud storage buckets. And we're going to go next to the tags. We're not going to add any tags. We don't need them. So we're just going to move on. We're going to review this. Everything looks pretty good so far. And we're going to create this user. Before you go away from this page, you absolutely must grab these components right here. You're going to grab the access key right here, either copying and pasting it or just hitting this two little paper button that says copy to clipboard when you hover over it. This is where the ID is going to go. This is going to be useful and necessary for the next lab. You absolutely must have this. Next, you're going to show what this secret access key is, and you're going to copy it, and you're going to paste it. This is the password for your app to access S3 functions. If you don't have both of these, you are not going to be able to use it. Your app will effectively be dead in the water. And you will not be able to see this when you navigate away. All right, close this out. And you should be able to take a look at some of these different policies. I'm going to go into roles, users. There we go. All right. You could have enabled multi-factor auth and stuff like that for this. You're going to also copy this ARN. This is important. This is under the users, under the S3 user. You're going to need this also for the access to the application, to S3. So this is the ARN for S3. And if you look at the JSON in here, this is slightly different. So this action is restricted to S3, not just a generic star to everything. Okay, so this is more or less what goes on with IAM. Let's see. You can do all kinds of analysis. You can create reports. We're not going to be doing that because we don't need it. There's not really any value in creating that since we haven't done anything with these yet. You can regenerate credentials. If you accidentally push this to GitHub by mistake, you're going to have to make this account inactive. You can also upload SSH keys. This is very similar to experiences with GitHub. So just be aware of that kind of stuff. Okay, so that is the end of this tutorial. I'm going to head back over to the console and we'll get started with the light sail stuff.